8 buys for fantasy football that are going to make your team better instantly if you take advantage of your league mates and steal these players from their roster. Let's start with a guy. First game of the season, it's going to be hard for people to get this out of their minds that A.J. Brown had 1 target in this game for 1 reception and 1.8 fantasy points. When you drafted A.J. Brown in the second round of your fantasy football drafts to be a cornerstone for your team, and he comes out and he drops 1.8 points, you're going to have some people that are mad about that. Totally understand that. The thing about it is that's not going to happen again with A.J. Brown. He is the number 1 wide receiver there, and he does have games sometimes. Again, it just is how that offense works. When you're looking at last year even and how they used A.J. Brown in that offense, he did have games last year where he had 5 points in week 9 against Jacksonville, right? He had 8 points in week 14 against Carolina. And I know it wasn't 1 point, but there are times where they just only give him like 2 or 3, 4 targets. You have those other weeks where he gets 9 targets and scores 23 points, where he has 5 targets, scores 19, where he has 7 targets and scores 22, 11 and 15 targets and scores 25 and 23. And that's the A.J. Brown that you're buying right now. And again, I think you are getting A.J. Brown at a little bit of a discount right now because of the bias that is going to stick with people as they cling on to what happened in the first game of the NFL season. All eyes were on the Dallas Cowboys and Philadelphia Eagles game that Thursday night. And so the public perception around A.J. Brown right now is not great. When in reality, if you can buy him at any price, cheaper than where he was drafted, he will be an absolute slam dunk pickup for your fantasy football team because he's on one of the best offenses in the NFL. The Eagles look like, in terms of their offensive firepower, they are running it back completely. Jalen Hurts looked great. And let's talk about Jalen Hurts while we're at it. Jalen Hurts, even though he didn't throw the ball a ton, 23 times, 19 of those were completions for 152 yards, just didn't throw for any touchdowns. But again, when you're looking at last year even, he had a lot of those 14, 20, 24, 20, 28, 22, 19. Look, I mean, this is all of his game log last year in terms of attempts. But still, he was throwing for, on the season, I mean, he had 18 touchdowns last year. On legitimately some of the lowest passing attempts in the league. I think the Eagles passed the ball less than any team in the league last year. And Jalen Hurts still balling out in terms of throwing touchdowns. So he absolutely can support a fantasy football wide receiver 1 in A.J. Brown. And look, again, I think right now you're getting A.J. Brown at wide receiver 2 prices, and he would be the best and highest upside wide receiver 2 that you would have in fantasy football. If anybody in your leagues is selling low on A.J. Brown, we are buying. This is a guy that is on elite contract. He's an elite talent on an elite offense with a very, very good quarterback. There's no reason for A.J. Brown to be frowned upon like this at this point in fantasy football seasons. It's been 1 week. People are overreacting. And if they are, you're the smart fantasy football player, and you're going to go buy A.J. Brown this week.
Yeah, I wouldn't be freaking about Terry McLaurin either. Honestly, of all the weeks for him to lay a 4.5 point game like this would be week 1 after he went almost the entire offseason, not really participating in any drills or any practices or anything with that offense because he was trying to get his contract. And again, this is kind of like when you're talking about the skill set of Terry McLaurin, last season he had 117 targets. Guess what he had the year before that? 130, 120, 130, 130, 93. Like, this is kind of the Terry that we've come to know and love and sometimes hate because it drives us crazy when he has really bad games. But this is just what happens with Terry. When he doesn't have a touchdown, he's probably going to have like a ceiling of 15 points because he's not really a target hog necessarily. He's a big play upside guy, but you even saw this last year before his tear, which was weeks 3 to 10. I think when Daniels really started coming on, the first 2 weeks of the season, 3 and 8 points. He had a 2-pointer in week 11. He had a 1-pointer in week 17. You're going to get a few of these every single year for Terry, and that's just the way that it is. So if you've got someone in your league that's panicking with Terry McLaurin and they see the production that Debo had, because that's going to be the one caveat to like, oh, well, it's different this year because Terry's never had to contend with a guy like Debo Samuel in the same offense. That's fair. Debo and Terry can very well be complementary in that offense. They don't play the same role. Terry's a guy that lines up essentially exclusively on the outside. He can command 120 targets this season, and Debo can still be productive. That is very, very possible. So don't panic yet on Terry McLaurin. In fact, go and see if you can get him at a discount right now, because I think you're probably going to have a nice comeback in the near future with him and Jaden Daniels and their connection.
All right, the next buy we have here for you, rookie wide receiver, rookie phenom, two-way player, Travis Hunter, two-way player, because he was in every down. I say every down. Really, he played 95% of the 11 personnel snaps that they ran today, but wasn't on the field for 12 personnel or any other personnel grouping. So he is a guy that when you're looking at his snaps from week 1, 42 compared to Brian Thomas Jr.'s 57 and De'Ami Brown's 47. But again, that's how they're using him as a slot wide receiver. He was lined up in the slot 69% of the time this week.
Nice.
Okay, so with Hunter, the reason I think he's a buy is because I think this is Hunter's floor. 8 targets for him this week. He led the team in targets, and that's not always going to happen. But again, 8 targets, 6 receptions for 33 yards. I mean, when you're looking at the fantasy points per target, I mean, it's not high because of the receiving yardage. And again, this is because Travis Hunter is going to be that quick, easy target for Trevor Lawrence. And if anything, to me, that screams sustainability in terms of target volume. I think no matter what happens, BTJ is going to be the big play guy, and Travis Hunter is going to be the guy that gets you 6 receptions, 7 receptions a game, and his floor is going to be 10 points. Because again, you're talking about him scoring 9.5 points in his first week in the NFL with very limited yardage. If he breaks off one of those for 20 more yards, he's at 11 points. If he scores a touchdown, he's at 15 points. And so I think this is Travis Hunter's floor. I think you're going to see Travis Hunter at the very minimum score 9 points. But we know what Travis Hunter's upside is as an athlete and as a playmaker. And when you start seeing those explosive plays get built into that Jacksonville Jaguars offense, where he does get some yak, where he does have some touchdowns, where they're going to use him in creative ways. I mean, again, I think, when you're looking at the usage for Hunter and his fantasy points, I think this week was his floor. Even if you're buying him at the price that he was drafted at, I'm good with it because I think that Travis Hunter at that current price is going to be a very good return on investment. I think he's a good fit in that offense, and I think he's going to be, again, a very high floor fantasy football player based on the types of targets he got in week 1 for the entire season. I think you should trade for him. If anybody has him on the trade block, or even if they don't, I would inquire about Travis Hunter in your fantasy leagues because I do think he's going to be somebody that if you can get him, he will pay dividends long-term for this fantasy football season.
By far and away, this was the most efficient game that we've seen under the Shane Steichen era in Indianapolis for pretty much everyone across the board there. The receivers, Michael Pittman, Tyler Warren at tight end, and then Jonathan Taylor at running back. He had a 12-point game today, and the reason we've got him listed as a buy is because it could have been a lot more than 12 points. If anyone watched a significant bit of that game before it really just went downhill in like the fourth quarter, when they started sitting JT because they had the game in the bag. They were up 30-0, and they didn't need to play him after that, so they put Giddens in the lineup. So don't freak out about that, by the way. With Giddens 12 carries to JT's 18, that is literally like, that's fake. That's false. That's fake. Don't freak out about that. What I care about is, number one, the 18 carries for 71 yards. Number 2, I care about Daniel Jones getting 2 QB sneaks at the goal line in the red zone, which is not something that I think either of us are betting on being a very common occurrence in Indianapolis with a guy like Jonathan Taylor there. It just happened to work out in this specific game plan against Miami that has a very weak front specifically. JT, another interesting thing to note here, had more receiving usage than we're used to seeing, at least over the last couple of years. 3 targets, 3 receptions for 27 yards. Those targets matter. Those receptions matter. That was an extra 6 points that we would not have gotten from JT in a touchdownless week that we're now getting from JT that I do think we're going to start seeing a little more consistently this season with the way that they were maximizing the efficiency of Daniel Jones as a passer. Daniel Jones as a passer is very similar to Justin Fields. He's a first read and not necessarily run, but like a first read and then worthless quarterback after that if you don't manage him correctly. And what we really noticed in that game specifically was if he was not seeing his first read, he would immediately look for his check down, and that was either Tyler Warren or Jonathan Taylor on the outside. So that's especially important for JT when it comes to his floor. This really kind of elevates him to like that, again, Joe Mixon, Josh Jacobs type of effect where it's if they don't get a touchdown, their floor is 10 to 12 points. And when they do get a touchdown or more, or they are, have crazy efficient opportunity with the carries that they got, like you're looking at an upside that's second quite literally to none in the NFL. So if you can get JT for a pretty fair price right now, I would go ahead and capitalize on that because that game was built for him to start. They ran their offense essentially through him, and then they stopped because they dominated Miami. So I think Taylor's a pretty good target right now.
One of the most interesting takeaways from week 1 was the difference in opinions of Omarion Hampton's rookie debut. A lot of people said they thought Omarion Hampton looked really good and that he's very promising and that he was going to break out here very soon. A lot of people said he looked slow, he didn't look any good, and they expect Najee to cut into his workload. And I'm not going to lie to you. I know I'm kind of digging my heels in here. I have no idea how you can look at what Omari Hampton did in that game and say he didn't look good. Well, he ran tall. He's standing up when he
ran tall. What does that even mean?
He's 220 pounds. Like, he's a big guy. He doesn't run low. Like, he doesn't have a super low center of gravity. We knew that. And so when you're looking at Omari Hampton, when he had running lanes, in my opinion, he looked just fine. I think he's going to eat in that offense, because really the most important thing for Omari Hampton in week 1 wasn't how he was running or how he looked hitting the hole. Because to be honest with you, I watched every single one of his snaps twice. When you look at the ones where he wasn't actually getting positive yardage, it wasn't necessarily because of Omari Hampton. It was because of the Chargers offensive line. If you want to make the argument, yes, because of the Chargers offensive line, that's why I'm concerned. That's more valid than Omari Hampton looked bad.
Because of the Slater
Because
injury.
he didn't look bad. He didn't. And I know that's subjective, but I'm telling you, I really don't think he did. Either way, in week 1, I was much more interested in the utilization. And what looks like it's going to be a top 6 offense in the NFL, you had Omari Hampton get 52 snaps to Najee Harris's 12. And I know what you're going to say. Well, Najee, they're going to ramp him up. He missed 2 months of practice. Yeah, well, here's the thing. I still don't think, if they didn't believe in Omari Hampton, that they would have played him 52 snaps in the opener against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh. Listen to Jim Harbaugh talk about the dude. He loves him. Loves Omari Hampton. The Chargers love Omari Hampton. They spent a first-round pick on him. And yes, he did have 15 rushing attempts for 48 yards, 3.2 yards per carry against a defense that is top 3 in the NFL against the run, that was number 1 last year against fantasy football running backs, allowed the least amount of points to fantasy football running backs, shut down Saquon Barkley when they played them. This is a run defense that absolutely kicks the crap out of fantasy football running backs, and we're overreacting about Omari Hampton, a running back, in his first start in the NFL because he played the Chiefs. How many points do you think Jahmyr Gibbs, in his first game in the NFL, guess who he played? The Chiefs. How many points do you think he had in his first game?
Not very many.
8. The exact same amount as Hampton. And it was wrong to freak out about Gibbs then. It's wrong to freak out about Hampton now. And I know they're completely different players. I'm not comparing them as players, as talents, whatever. I'm saying it's wrong to freak out about Omari Hampton. So if you can buy him, it's a long-winded rant.
Literally any discount, boom. Automatic win.
I mean, again, I am encouraged. I took him in the second, and I'm encouraged. Oh man, he's getting this much usage, and that offense looks that good. Oh, he's gonna eat. He had 8 points. He gets a touchdown. He's already at 14. He gets another reception. We're talking about 15 to 20 points. That's what he's going to do. And again, he's only going to get better as he keeps playing. Buy Omari Hampton no matter what. I will die on this hill. I will. And if I die, I die. But I'm going to die on this hill, and you're going to go along the ride with me. So buy Omari Hampton. Whatever you do, buy Omari Hampton.
Jamison Williams is going to be our next guy here. Look, when you break down the snap counts here, Jamo was actually the snap count leader in that offense with 65. He had 43 routes run. Same amount of targets in just a really bad week as Amon-Ra St. Brown. This was a really rough week for the Detroit Lions. First showing with no Ben Johnson as a play caller, which a lot of people I think are going to honestly overplay a little bit. Anything can happen in week 1. The Cleveland Browns almost beat Cincinnati if they didn't have an awful kicker. This is one where, again, Jamo, very similar to Terry. He's not your target hog guy that's just going to rack up, 13, 14, 15 targets every single week and just have such a high floor like a Drake London-esque floor, right? Jameson Williams is a number 2 wide receiver in his own offense. He did just get a contract extension, which does matter in terms of the team's dedication to that specific player. They have a vision, not even a vision. This vision has been executed, and they want to continue this vision and this complementary skill set with a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jameson Williams is going to be fine, guys. And this was not just a poor week for Jamo. This was also a poor week for Amon-Ra. This was also a less than ideal week for Jahmyr Gibbs. This was a poor week for David Montgomery across the board, right? And this is something that they're going to have to figure out long-term throughout the course of the entire season. But I do think you're going to see some boom weeks from Jameson Williams in the near future because water finds its level, and that's just the fact of the matter, right? So don't freak with Jamo. Go ahead and get him if you can at a discount right now.
All right, Darnell Mooney is going to be our next buy here, largely because you did notice that Drake London left the game a little bit early. But let's just look at the utilization here for the Atlanta Falcons in terms of the wide receiver position. Obviously, Drake London, the leading snap getter. Psych, it's Casey Washington that has the most snaps. Casey Washington had 6 points today in fantasy football, and Ray McCloud had 8 points. This is going to be an offense that is going to print wide receiver points. And there is a clear wide receiver 2 when Darnell Mooney is on the field, and it's Darnell Mooney. He's much better than Ray McCloud, and he's much better than Casey Washington. They like him much better. He was a game-time decision this week, and they rule him out. Next week, he's going to come back. He's going to have 14 points, and everybody's going to be like, oh, yay, Darnell Mooney. And you're going to be like, I should have bought him. Well, then you're going to be like, oh, I watched the Domain Fantasy Football video, and I did buy him, because Darnell Mooney, again, is in an offense where even against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a good matchup. You're talking about, again, Casey Washington had 72 snaps in that role that Darnell Mooney plays. So we're going to pick up Darnell Mooney. And again, when he does come back, we expect him to get a lot of usage. Now, obviously, the unfortunate thing is if Drake London does miss time, that could be a little bit shaky. But, Mooney had the shoulder injury. He was inactive. Casey Washington, again, took over the role as the X receiver. And at that point, I'm very confident that when Mooney comes back, he is going to get a lot of guaranteed volume. The problem is right now, people are low on Darnell Mooney because he didn't play this week, so it's recency bias. They also were low on him anyways. He was going in the 10th, 11th round because of the injury that happened in the preseason. And look, maybe he's a shakier buy if you lost this week because you really need to get in the win category. And if he doesn't play next week, that's going to suck for you. But if you won this week and you want to add riches to your fantasy football team, I can think of no better way to do it than to buy the wide receiver 2 in an offense that, again, when you're looking at the routes run for Casey Washington, 46 routes, 39 total targets in that offense this week for wide receivers and Bijan. So I want pieces of that wide receiver room, and Darnell Mooney is the piece to own that is very affordable right now. So if you can add Darnell Mooney to your team, buy Darnell Mooney low. I'm definitely doing it. I think later in the season, he could end up being a legitimately awesome flex spot for your fantasy football team.
Before you call me stupid for saying buy Jakobi Meyers after he just had a 17-point game week 1, just hear me out a little bit here, guys. Number one, Jakobi Meyers, for whatever reason, in every format, every year, ever, has consistently been shorted constantly and all the time. Jakobi Meyers could have 30 points every single week, and they'd be like,
who?
I don't even know who that guy is. Literally couldn't care less. And I'm kind of exaggerating here, but Jakobi Meyers, every single year, when you look at his price and where he's drafted, he is viewed as a borderline last flex option. Jakobi Meyers could be your wide receiver 2 because of his production every single year. This is the ideal build for Jakobi Meyers in an offense. And I know there was a lot of noise in the offseason with him requesting a trade because he wanted an extension, et cetera, et cetera. He's a Las Vegas Raider right now, okay? And that's not looking to change anytime soon. And clearly with his week 1 showing, I don't think they want him to go anywhere. 10 targets, 8 receptions, 97 yards. The next best receiver in terms of targets was Dante Thornton with 4. Trey Tucker had the next best production because he had a big play touchdown, 13 points on 2 receptions for 15 yards or 54 yards. Jakobi Meyers had 59 snaps to Trey Tucker's 57. The next best was Dante Thornton with 38. Jack Best, total non-factor. He had 4 snaps the entire day. Brock Bowers is now going down with an injury, which if you're worried, again, about that target volume, he brought in 8 targets. That's all the more reason for us to be super, super high on Jakobi Meyers from here on out. If Brock Bowers is banged up for the next couple of weeks, even if he doesn't miss time, even if he's playing, but we know that he's a little bit banged up, and they just decide to take it a little bit easy with Brock Bowers, Jakobi Meyers is effectively, he's the wide receiver 1 there. Everybody's been viewing Brock Bowers as the quote-unquote wide receiver 1 in that offense. Jakobi Meyers schematically and in terms of opportunity, week 1 was and probably will continue to be the true wide receiver 1 there. And again, I'm not trying to I'm not trying to short anyone else here with Ashton Jeanty and Brock Bowers. Those guys can all be productive in their own right and they can be amazing. The bang for your buck with Jakobi Meyers is second to none in fantasy football. Go get him.
So we are buying low on these players. And again, if you do that, this is one of the best ways to win a fantasy football league is to buy low on players throughout the season that are elite fantasy football scorers, but have buy windows open up for them. So take advantage of these guys. Do us a huge favor. If you enjoyed the video, smash the like button and also subscribe if you play fantasy football. We're going to have content coming out for you multiple times a week. In fact, we got another video coming this afternoon. So subscribe, make sure you get alerted when we get that video out. But we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for joining us and we will see you later.